There we go. Good morning, General. There we go. Can you hear us?
A very good morning, Honorable Chair and Honorable Committee members. A very good morning also to the Honorable Minister of Police and the Deputy Ministers and the colleagues in the platform. I would request the Secretariat to flag the briefing note for us. Colonel Mlambo. Thank you. Honorable Chair, we are going to take the Portfolio Committee on Police on the prepared briefing note talking to the issues that were highlighted in the invitation. The first part of the presentation will talk to the challenges that are related to the instability of the division and also the background and the progress on the ongoing high-level disciplinary cases against the senior management in the division. The CFO of the SAPS will brief the committee on the funding and the expenditure of crime intelligence. And then the last point on this first part of the briefing note will talk to the recruitment, the vacancies, as well as the filling of vacancies in the division. Then going to the first part of the briefing note, as the National Commissioner has highlighted, in as much as there are challenges within the division crime intelligence, but there is stability within the division. There is proper management structure, especially at head office. However, there are certain individuals within the SAPS at large, including the division crime intelligence, as well as the public, who are responsible for the misinformation, fake news, and unproven allegations, which also goes as far as leakage of sensitive information. And these are always trending on social media, and they give impression that there is instability within the division. Unfortunately, such kind of actions, they compromise both the integrity and operations of the division. The division has been experiencing a lot of misrepresentation of truth of late through the social media platforms in respect of the decisions and control measures that had been put in place by management. The misrepresentation, according to our analysis, is a strategy of pushback by those that were and are still unlawfully benefiting from those issues that has been identified as mismanagement within the division. It is also looked at as a demonstration of being against those decisions that management takes and also the control measures that are put in place. Of course, then that will be portrayed as instability by the very same people that are affected and will want to keep the status quo. The sub-crime intelligence was weakened over years, and allegations of unlawful activities has been widely reported. The attempts were put in place to revive the division several times, but then were met with resistance because of those that are unlawfully benefiting. Of course, they will not support those changes put in place. Touching on some of the reports, commission reports that the chairperson also touched on the opening remarks. The first one, as evident of the current challenges faced by the division, the report of the expert panel into July 2021 civil unrest, which pointed to the significant intelligence failure to anticipate, prevent, and disrupt the planned violence. With the recommendations like this, the stability at the top and lack of technological capability within the environment were highlighted as crucial points to be attended to. The other point was the absence of the national early warning capability, which needed then to be established to ensure the timeless sharing of intelligence and early warnings. Touching on the progress made so far from those recommendations, there is stability at the top as there are various appointments that have been made, including that of the divisional commissioner, the component heads of Secret Service account, as well as the component head of Intelligence Analysis Center. The division has improved its technological capability, firstly by acquiring the certificate of exemption, which allowed us then to be able to deploy all our listed equipment, which gives us more capacity in tracing and monitoring identified criminals as well as persons of interest. The other intervention that is still ongoing is the social media monitoring capability that is being acquired, especially the tool, as well as the appointment of the social media monitoring specialist. Both the processes are at the advanced stage. Also, based on the recommendations, the division established 24-hour intelligence centers at district, provincial, and national levels, which are utilized to ensure proper coordination and dissemination of information. And also, we issue daily early warning reports to the SAPS operational environments that are coordinated at district, provincial, and national operational centers. Also, we are now issuing or contributing to the NICOC with our weekly stability report, which informs then a weekly intelligence report for the intelligence community at large. And then touching on the second report of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into the State Capture, which also investigated the allegations of corruption and theft of public funds in the division. The evidence revealed a massive corruption, mismanagement, and theft of public funds. Amongst others, the 5 issues were included, which is the unauthorized and unlawful usage of state vehicles by members that are outside the division crime intelligence and by the senior management members within the division. Also, the point that was highlighted in the state capture report, it's the irregular employment of 250 members who are relatives of senior officers within the division. Also, the renting of properties owned by members or former members of SAPS to the state. The abuse of informal rewards and remuneration, as well as the consequence management that was not implemented, especially at senior level. Then moving on to the progress so far on the issues that were highlighted or are highlighted in the state capture report. Since January 2023, when I was appointed the divisional commissioner, the division was found to be still characterized by the misuse of both crime intelligence methodologies as well as resources, which was still affecting the performance level of the division. And then there were a few areas then that were prioritized by the management in order to improve the situation. The first decision the exercise was for the management to review and align the performance indicators and priorities of the division from district level to national level to align them to the priorities of the SAPS as well as the JCPS cluster. The second one was the taking away of the state vehicles from the senior management and redistributing them to operational level. We also reviewed the financial delegation of powers, which included the implementation of control measures on informal rewards and remuneration. We also embarked on the process of identifying the ghost employees who were unlawfully employed and are part of the recruited 250. And we also implemented, and we are still enforcing consequence management at senior management level. Of course, Honorable Chair, these decisions were not supported by some in the senior management, which made it difficult then to implement and achieve the desired results, which also resulted then in the misinformation through the media after each and every one of those decisions were implemented. On the next slide, we are going to look at some of those misinformation and fake news that were spread after each and every one of those decisions were taken. Looking at the first one that talked to the review and alignment of performance indicators, it needed us to identify and recruit capable senior officers through transfers and promotions in order to implement these new performance indicators. We had to embark on a recruitment process. Maybe to make an example, Major General Madondo and Brigadier Britnell, who were brought in to reinforce our most important component, which is the heart of the division, were transferred laterally into the division without any promotion involved. This then resulted in the divisional commissioner to be wrongfully accused of bringing his own people. Some of the social media postings talked to the misinformation and unfounded allegations that the divisional commissioner wrongfully appointed two senior managers within the division. That is the latest. The first one talked to the allegations of appointing a young woman at Crime Intelligence as a brigadier who was previously employed at BMW SA without meeting the minimum requirements. Maybe a quick brief on those allegations. The division had submitted the need for this vacant post of the section head of our technical support services to the division HRM during the year 2022. And indeed, this specific skills post was advertised internally within the SAPS during February 2023. And then after the panel had set and evaluated all the applications, the panel came to the decision to withdraw the post as there were no suitable candidates who met the minimum requirements of a technical expert and not an experienced crime intelligence collector. The post then was advertised externally during April with the minimum requirements of a relevant diploma or degree, managerial experience in the field of the post. The applications were received through the division human resource management of the SAPS, where they were screened and thereafter processed towards the division. After then the interview process, a recommendation was submitted to the Divisional Commissioner, Human Resource Management, for moderation, which then was done. And the moderating committee consisted of senior managers, excluding the divisional commissioner in the SAPS, led by Lieutenant General Nkua. There was also General Kamane, General Jacobs, General Timpane, CFO, Deputy National Commissioner Msigiri, who recommended the said candidate. And it was then approved by the National Commissioner. The division received the approval from the moderating committee during September 2024. And then touching on maybe the qualifications and experience that were considered during the selection process. The successful candidate that was appointed has a national senior certificate, a national diploma in mechatronics engineering, the BTEC in industrial engineering, and currently she is finalizing or completing her MBA in business administration. She also has certificates in project management, also in the Ugela Public Service Pre-Entry Program, as well as leadership training program. When we come to experience, the candidate had 7 years experience in the middle management and supervisory level within the specialist role of fastening and planning, earning around 1.1 million per annum, which is between the salary scale of a colonel and a brigadier in the SAPS. Then the duties that were considered that were performed by the senior manager before the appointment, she was managing a team of 15 technicians and artisans, overseeing the calibration and maintenance at the lab workshop, also conducting safety and process audits, preparing and managing maintenance budget, performing the resource planning for as well as the analysis maintenance data, as well as market. She was previously also a marketing executive in the Tshwane University of Technology, as well as a mechatronics assistant at the same BMW for a year. So the above qualification and experience qualified this candidate in terms of the minimum requirements of the post as advertised. She also has a valid driver's license, which was issued for the first time in 2014 and continuously renewed. Upon her appointment, she applied for security clearance. Sorry about that, Chair. She applied for a security clearance as required, and the vetting process is underway. Lastly, it is not true that the successful candidate is related to one of the senior managers in the division, Major General Lusha. Then maybe touching also briefly now on the other appointment that was also then spread throughout the social media with the allegations of appointing another new brigadier who was also not meeting the requirement. She was said to be possessing only a matric certificate. The division has submitted then the advertisement of this post externally during April 2024 with the minimum requirements of a 3-year diploma or degree and 3-year managerial experience. The applications by the candidate were submitted as it's a norm through the HRM division of the SAPS, where all the applications were screened and thereafter sent to the division for further processing. After the interview process, a recommendation was submitted also to the Divisional Commissioner for HRM for moderation. And then after moderation, the approval then was sent back to the division at the end of September. The successful candidate, which was said to be possessing only a matric certificate, is indeed having a matric certificate, a national senior certificate, plus the bachelor's degree in public management and administration, industrial psychology, the honors degree in development and management, and currently studying for master's degree. Then moving on, a brief also on the certificates, additional certificates or qualifications possessed by the successful candidate. Has a certificate in strategic management, operations management, also a Nugela Public Service SMS pre-entry program, project management, advanced management development program, introduction to strategic planning and management, and also a program in disaster risk management, the community planning and development training. In terms of experience, the candidate prior to the appointment was already at a deputy director level, which is a colonel in the SAPS, within IPIT, in charge of monitoring and evaluation, strategic planning, monitoring, evaluation, and reporting. She previously also worked at the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure in the Office of the Executive Manager, also in the Department of Higher Education and Training as an Assistant Director, and also at IPIT as an Assistant Director of Monitoring and Evaluation, and also at Department of Social Development. The above qualifications and experience qualified this candidate in terms of the minimum requirements of the advertised post. She also has a valid driver's license, and prior to her appointment, she possessed a valid top secret clearance that was issued by State Security, which was valid from year 2024 until 2029. The successful candidate was appointed the section head of intelligence planning and monitoring within the division. And then a short brief then on other unproven allegations as well as misinformation that are talking to the decisions that were taken by the division. The second one is the taking away of state vehicles from senior management and redistributing those vehicles to operational level. There were media articles that were talking about crime intelligence vehicles that are collecting dust and not allocated to members soon after that decision was taken. And then also the third one was the review of the financial delegation of powers, including the implementation of control measures on the informal rewards and remuneration. After the divisional directive that is aligned to the reviewed DOP that talked to the reviewed powers for the approval of the informal rewards and remuneration, there are still continuous misinformation about the informers being paid 3,000 rands only, which is talking to the delegated powers at a lower level. Then the next one is the identification of ghost employees who were unlawfully employed. The process is still ongoing, but then there are continuous accusations that are talking to the management intentionally incapacitating the division by then unearthing those ghost employees and taking them through the necessary processes then within the SAPS. Then lastly, it was the decision that is talking to the implementation and enforcement of consequence management at senior level of the SAPS. As and when then these processes are initiated. There will always be claims of victimization, claims of protected disclosures, claims of being whistleblowers, and also booking of sick for an extended time by the respective senior employees, which then delays the whole disciplinary process. That will take us through then the brief on the progress on these disciplinary cases against senior management within the division. The first one then, General, is having 3 disciplinary cases that has been all referred to the Triple SBC for pre-dismissal, which has been then dragging up to date. The second one, General Dio, for the failure to report the loss of firearm and defeating the ends of justice. That matter then has since been finalized with the dismissal of the senior officer. The next one is the allegations that are talking to the misconduct during an operation which amounted to the defeating the ends of justice by Major General Khan. The matter has since been finalized and the senior officer acquitted on those allegations. Then moving on, the Brigadier Hlungwane with a string of those misconducts, and then all of them has been withdrawn because the senior officer has been dismissed in terms of Section 34 of the Police Act. And then another senior officer, Brigadier Ngolunga, who had a misconduct of not attending the Triple SBC case, which resulted in the member involved then receiving 3 months' salary as compensation because of the failure of the senior officer to attend to the case. The officer was found guilty and given a sanction of cancelling. The matter then has been finalized. The 2 matters that are still pending, the one is involving Brigadier Duma in Gauteng province, which is awaiting, the matter has been, the trial has been finalized. The matter is now awaiting the final report from the chairperson. And the other one, a Brigadier Ntimane in the Northern Cape, the matter then is still in process. That will take us to the end then of the brief on the progress on these dismissed cases against senior management of the division. Honorable Chair, I will then request the CFO to take us through the next 4 slides on the funding and expenditure of crime intelligence in the open account. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, General.
General Limpani.
Good morning to the chairperson of the committee, the members of the committee, the Minister of Police, Deputy Ministers, National Commissioner. All protocol is observed. I will take the committee through a few slides that talks to the budget of crime intelligence on vote 28. Program 4 is crime intelligence, and there are budget arrangements that I will go through, including the allocation for this program. As I indicated, it is program 4. And what are the main cost drivers in terms of this particular account, and then additional support that has been given to this program over the years. If we go to the next slide, just an indication to say the operational budget for crime intelligence function is annually allocated to the division crime intelligence. And this has been happening since 2013-14 financial year up to now. It is program 4 on vote 28. The division apportions the operational budget between the provincial crime intelligence offices in an equitable manner, whereafter it is managed centrally. Even though the provincial cost centers are accountable for utilization of resources, final accountability remains with the Divisional Commissioner Crime Intelligence in this regard, as this is the principle that is similar to the management of the SAPS budget. We have Interpol function as another subcomponent within this program, and then compensation of employees amount is managed on a national level in terms of new appointments, post promotions, pay progressions, increased benefits as per bargaining council agreements, and also considering the natural attrition, etc. The next slide will then indicate budget allocation to this particular program. We have tried to do an analysis of 3 years. You will note, Chairperson, that for compensation of employees in 2022-2023, the program received an allocation of over 3.9 billion. For 23-24, over 4 billion was allocated. And for this current financial year, 4.3 billion has been allocated for compensation of employees. These are your salaries, your allowances, including overtime in this regard. Operational budget, this is your goods and services and the procurement of vehicles, all the amount that we give to this program to procure such for members to be able to do their work. For 22-23, 345 million was allocated to this program. For 23-24, 349 was allocated. For 24-25, 313 million was allocated. And this is the result that we have suffered a bit of a decrease in terms of operational funding across the board. So all these decreases had to be applied to all the programs. Transfers and subsidies, this is a line item that speaks to exit benefits paid to employees. Crime intelligence received 35 million for 22-23 financial year, over 36 million for 23-24, and 38 million for this current financial year. Of importance is to note that compensation payments are usually the largest portion when it comes to this program. This constitutes plus or minus 91%. Operational costs are primarily your fuel expenses, fleet maintenance, as well as travel and subsistence as generated by personnel as and when they travel, gathering intelligence and doing their intelligence work across the country. We have substantial baseline reductions that were introduced by National Treasury from 24-25 financial year on operational funding. This is across the board. On average, we had 11.9% reduction per year over the MTF. It must also be noted that the figures that I'm presenting are excluding the secret service account, which is not part of Vote 28 policy. The next slide just indicates the main cost drivers. What drives the costs in terms of operational budget of this particular program? You will note that fuel, fleet maintenance, travel and subsistence, as well as vehicle procurements and a bit of stationery and consumables, as well as telephone and cell phone communications are the main cost drivers in this regard. When you look at and compare the figures per financial year, it's plus or minus the same, with the exception of fuel. For 24-25, the expenditure up to 28 February is about 85 million in this regard, but we anticipate that by the end of February, the figures will be in the same spending trend in this regard. We are indicating in the next slide, Chair, that over and above the operational funding or the baseline that we have allocated to this program, we have, over the last couple of years, given additional allocation in particular to this particular program to deal with the issues of vetting services. There was a backlog. We had allocated additional funding to this program to be able to reduce that particular backlog. We allocated funding for additional security upgrades at various facilities. We also allocated additional funding for interventions during the shutdown operations, as well as election deployments. Substantial information technology needs as well. We have recently then revisited and allocated a bit of extra support for the program to be able to then function in this regard. Thank you, Chair. Those are the few slides that talks to what lies within Program 4 on the open budget, which is Vote 28 policy. Thank you, Chair. I will pause here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. And then moving on with the briefing, going to the recruitment and vacancies and the filling of such vacancies as part of the capacitation of the division. We will give this brief in terms of the financial years, starting with the financial year 2022-2023, where we we filled 13 posts at senior management level, including that one of the divisional commissioner, the component head secret service account, the section heads of internal audit, commercial, financial and cyber crime intelligence, the head of national security, the head of Interpol, the head of multi-dimensional and organized crime, as well as the head of counter narcotics. At provincial level during 2022-2023, we filled the post of provincial head crime intelligence in the Northern Cape, as well as the section heads of cluster coordination and overt operations in Free State, KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, and Northwest. And then during the same financial year, the other projects for the levels, level 1 to 12, we filled 9 posts of polygraph officers within our vetting section, as well as 301 posts were filled through the internal post promotion. Then moving to the following financial year, 2023-2024, we managed to fill 19 posts at a senior management level with the at head office, the component head intelligence analysis and coordination, section head security intelligence analysis, as well as section head of personnel security, which is vetting at counter and security intelligence, the head of supply chain management at secret service account, as well as the head of surveillance at operational intelligence support. At provincial level, we managed to fill the posts of section heads of intelligence analysis and coordination in Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, Limpopo, Northern Cape, and Mpumalanga, and also the section heads of crime intelligence cluster coordination and overt operations in the Eastern Cape, Gauteng, and Northern Cape, the section heads of intelligence collection in the Eastern Cape, Mpumalanga, Northwest, and Western Cape, and lastly, the section head cluster coordination in Mpumalanga. Then on other projects from level 1 to level 12, we managed to fill 50 posts of general workers, as well as 49 security officers, and also 159 posts were filled through the internal post promotion, as well as 600 posts were filled through the project 10,000 recruitment of the SAPS. And then during the financial year 24-25, the current one, we managed to fill the post of the section head technical support services, as well as section head intelligence planning and monitoring, those 2 posts that I had briefed the committee on at length at the beginning of this presentation. And the other projects for the current financial year were the 160 posts that were filled, more especially concentrating at MICLI management from the level of Lieutenant Colonel to Colonel through the internal post promotion. And then the next are the posts that were also advertised during the previous financial year, 2023-2024, 6 posts at senior management level, which is the component head of counter and security intelligence at head office level, as well as the section head of agent management program and undercover projects at head office. At provincial level, the provincial heads of Eastern Cape, Northwest, Western Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal, and those posts are currently on hold. And then on other projects from level 1 to 12, we had advertised laterally 20 posts, administration posts, and also we advertised 40 posts for re-enlistments, as well as these 12 posts of social media monitoring specialist that is also currently on hold, as well as 100 posts from the SAPS project 10,000 recruitment drive. And then the current vacant posts that are not advertised yet are 4. First one being the component head at national level of intelligence collection, the section head of commercial, financial, and cyber crime intelligence, the section head of financial management and administration at the Secret Service account. At provincial level, is the section head of cluster coordination and overt operations in the Eastern Cape. The other projects that are lined up for the financial year are the external advertisement of the posts that could not be filled on the previous internal post-promotion advertisements for the financial year 23-24, which are 15, 24-25, which are 36, and the lateral advertisement then of the 200 members within SAPS. Then moving on the last part of this briefing, Chair will talk to the background on the investigation against Major General Khan, which has been briefly touched on the previous slides. Giving the background, this disciplinary process originates from the IPID investigation that was conducted against Major General Khan. At the conclusion of this investigation, IPID sent the report to the National Commissioner with recommendations of disciplinary steps to be taken against Major General Khan. That was done then in terms of Section 30 of the IPID Act. Then the National Commissioner then in terms of that section is obligated to initiate disciplinary processes when complaints are referred to his office. After that, then within the division, the internal investigation was also conducted, which came to the same findings and recommendations as those of the IPID. Then during December 2024, functionaries, which are employer representative, as well as the presiding officer, were appointed by the divisional commissioner, and then and the employee senior officer was informed then of such disciplinary process, which was going to take place or appeared then at the beginning of 2025 and later postponed to February. And as I've reported, the matter has since been finalized.